will not be live streamed. It's when we have our private conversation. So a big welcome to everyone who's joined today. Thank you for taking the time to be with us. Today's event is, I've lost track of how many in the series of global networking events, but we've done a lot. So this is the March event on the subject of video innovations online. For those of you I haven't met before, my name is Hamish Sandison. I'm an international lawyer, dual qualified in the US and the UK, and I chair White Report Global Limited, which is the owner and operator of the mediaspace platform. I have with me from mediaspace Kinga Inser. You'll hear more about her background when she speaks to you. She is the founder and CEO of mediaspace. And we have Lavina Sudendran, who's head of content and communications for mediaspace. I think we're not going to be joined by one of my colleagues on the board, Phil McCauley, who's on holiday. I don't know why we allowed him to have a holiday today, but there you go. We've got to introduce stricter rules about that, I think, Kinga. But anyway, you'll meet him another time. For those of you who don't know the background of mediaspace, might just be worth saying a few words about that. As some of you know, we came up with the idea, or we, that's Kinga and the board, the idea of developing a media space as a platform for media professionals. That was in January of 2020, and not a moment too soon, because a few months later, COVID hit, and of course, we were not able to meet in person, but fortunately we were ready to launch an online platform where people could meet via mediaspace when they couldn't meet in person. So the idea really is very simple: to connect professionals in media marketing, technology, law, policymaking, science, regulation globally, to provide them with a more interactive platform, allowing them to meet actual people rather than just meeting social media profiles. And the object being to stay ahead of the curve in their professional lives, to find new business opportunities in this more interactive way. And it's been a great success beyond our wildest dreams. We now have members in 70 or more countries. Kinga will tell you a little bit more about that network, how to join it, including our Global Leadership Club for those of you who want to take part with other leading change makers in the industry. So before we start the conversation, let me just tell you about the format and the house rules. We're going to have two parts, as I explained: the panel with our special guests, which we are live streaming. And I'll introduce those special guests in a moment. And then the networking session, when we open the conversation to everybody on the call, and that is not public. And the important thing is that the networking session is a meeting in Zoom terminology, not a webinar. Now, I hate webinars, I don't know about you. So instead of sitting there unseen and unheard, you will be able to participate in a conversation with the panelists and with everyone else on the call. Because I think we all know, in my experience certainly, that every great project, every great business starts with a single conversation, and that's what mediaspace is about. It's in our DNA. No webinars. So before we go any further, can I just ask you, if you haven't already done, to put your full name on the screen? I think most of you have done that, and sign up for mediaspace Global. This is a free event, but we do like to know that those participating are members, and membership is free. And if you'd like to share your name and email address or your mediaspace profile in the chat, please do that so that others can then connect you and we can know who is on the call. And as Kinga mentioned earlier, we are removing any AI-assisted individuals who make their way onto the call, because we only want humans on this call. So it's going to be a really interesting discussion. I'm looking forward to it. I'll stop there and I'll invite Kinga to say a few words before we go any further. Kinga.
Thank you, Hamish. Hi, everyone. My name is Kinga. I'm a media expert and the founder and CEO of mediaspace.global. As you know, At mediaspace, we are building this global ecosystem to break local and elitist business bubbles. And our professional mission is to bring people together from all around the globe who probably wouldn't meet anyway into conversations like this. There is a huge transformation in the video industry, in the broadcast media, streaming, social media, Web3, and beyond. So we are very, very happy to have video innovators on our panel and in our discussion today. I hope this session will also bring you insights and solutions and opportunities for everyone attending. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Kinga. So we'll move into the panel session first. And we have a fantastic lineup of experts, 4 of them, from very different perspectives in the video online sector. So I'll introduce them one by one, and then I'm going to ask them to say a little bit to open the conversation about themselves and focusing on the challenges that they were seeking to address when they founded their companies and what solutions they have come up with. So just one challenge and one solution, because we must make sure we don't run over time. So tell us why you founded your company, what the challenge was, the main challenge, the big one that you were trying to address, and what was the solution that you came up with. Then we'll carry on that conversation. I'll ask some further questions to debate what is happening in the video innovation space. So the 4 experts we have with us are Eva Thunell, who is the founder of Shortly Film, David Sarlos, who is the founder of Vialog, Matthew Cimaglia, who's the founder of Altion, and Anthony Copping, the founder of Binumi. And they will explain what their different companies do, but as I say, it's very, very diverse in their range of activities. So I'll begin with you, Eva, if I may, just to give us a brief introduction to what the challenge was you were trying to address with your company and what the solution was that you came up with. So Eva, over to you. So you're on mute, Eva, so we have to start again. Yeah,
there you go.
Now, off you go. You start again, Eva.
I was asked to be a producer for a short film a few years ago, and when I got that question, I started to look in what possibilities it was to get these films out to the audience. And well, there are different platforms, but how could we really market the film and get the films to the audience that would like this kind of film in the short format? So I found, in that perspective, I turned that offer down and started instead developing Shortly.film.
Right. Okay. And the solution you've come up with to that problem, then, what does Shortly.film do exactly for those of us who haven't yet seen it?
We are a streaming service for short films only. So we are taking on board in most cases unknown filmmakers that are contacting us to want us to help them find their audience and get visibility for their film.
Right. And is there a particular genre or genres that you specialize in?
We have been broad. Now we have narrowed it down to horror, fantastic films, as it's called, horror, sci-fi, and fantasy films mostly. Right.
Okay. I wanted to make that clear so we know what we're going to be seeing. Not today, but when we visit your site. Thank you, Eva. That was great to start us off. David Sarlos, I'll turn to you. Vialog, tell us the challenge you were facing and what you came up with to address that challenge.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much. So I'm David Sarlos, founder of Vialog, which is an engagement solution for brands and businesses who want to grow their engagement, signups, and sales with video commands. The challenge that or the issue we have seen is the kind of the increasing loss of trust, especially in the media sector. So we are looking at the solutions to kind of increase and reestablish that trust using video commands.
And how is it going? You talk about trust. I know trust is in short supply and getting shorter at the moment online. How do you address that issue?
Yeah, I think like especially when it comes to text, it has been increasingly hard to kind of trust both sources, but actual content itself, especially when it comes to community or user-generated content. This loss of textual trust will be kind of the ongoing trend as we see the rise of generative or conversational AI. So we are proposing, and I think there is the kind of ecosystem agreement in the scope potentially behind proposing video as the new format for, you know, increasing the current kind of engagement metrics throughout different business verticals.
Right, okay. I think I probably should have asked you to say where you're sitting as we speak. You're in Budapest, is that right?
That's right.
Yes, and Eva, I think, are you in Stockholm or some other part of Sweden? Oh, you're not anywhere. You're on mute. Sorry.
I'm in the south part of Sweden, so about 500 kilometers south of Sweden.
Is that near Lund?
Yes, very near Lund.
Oh, good. I visited Lund a few times for some legal work. A lovely place. Anyway, I will move on to Matthew next, and I will remind you, if you tell us where you're sitting, that's always interesting, as we cover a lot of different time zones. So Matthew Cimaglia is the founder, as I say, of Alteon. So Matthew, your challenge, what were you facing when you founded your company, and what was the solution you came up with?
No, well, thanks for having me on today. And I'm calling in from New York. But I think the biggest challenge was the fact that over 20 years of being in the production industry, I've seen just about every workflow that you could possibly ever imagine, whether it was broadcast. And when I started my career, it was VHS tapes, just to date myself a little bit. But, you know, it's sort of these digital evolutions that have happened over time. And nobody has really quite grasped putting everything into one ecosystem. So there's several single purpose apps that do really great jobs at what their purpose is. But as an editor or a producer, there's a lot of fatigue that happens there because you're contextually switching between one platform to the next. And at Alteon, we really have encompassed a lot of different systems, whether we've built them, we've partnered with companies, or we're buying companies that help roll up into our ecosystem to help the entire creative process from start to finish in a cloud-based SaaS solution.
And I think I'm going to put this question to others as well, but I wondered, when you started up, did you face lots of competition, or were you doing something so unusual and different that you faced no competitors?
So the irony is, you know, we started this company right before COVID, and we knew that the general remote work environment was starting to increase during that time period. And then lo and behold, months later, everyone's now remote. So yeah. The other thing that I think is really great about the media space in general is the fact that there are so many different use cases. There are so many different people that are creating content every day, even people that wouldn't necessarily classify themselves as content creators. They're experts in their industry. And to be able to develop a platform, I think there's going to be many others like it. And we've seen this even last week at the National Association of Broadcasters Convention in Vegas, that there are many other companies that are sprouting up now. The fortunate thing is we have my 20 years of experience and then 4 years ahead of us when we've started this platform.
Right. Okay. So you're not without competitors, but you've got a head start.
That is for sure.
Yeah. Great. Okay. Right. Last but not least, can I ask Anthony Copping to come on and tell us about the company that you founded, Binumi? And again, the question is, what was the challenge that you were facing, and what was the solution that you came up with?
Well, I think my history or my journey has really been I came from documentary making with National Geographic, and for me, I realized people were not becoming passive consumers of content, and they wanted to create stories and share that with their communities. So my focus and our business focus has been helping creators and companies make factual videos of purpose, whether it's for knowledge or business or even both. So Binumi is a creative tech platform that provides everything you need, and whether you're trying to make, share, collaborate for any purpose with video. And since building, it's been an extraordinary journey, but our users have now made more than 1 million videos. So that's our sort of big takeaway this year. I mean, I think our real belief and the cornerstone of the purpose of the platform is that we don't think video creation is the doyen of the few. We think it's the liberator of many. And I think it's one of the really amazing things that's happening in modern society is that humans now can use video, the most powerful medium in our history, to tell the stories and communicate knowledge. The real challenge with that, Hamish, is that businesses and the consumer landscape has become so complicated, whether it's scripting, accuracy, truth, authenticity, moderation, legal, multiple channels, formats, lengths. The skill sets for the teams involved in trying to do that, whether it's inside a company or even in an agency, has become so wide and daunting that we found as a company, by providing support teams, video on demand services, and we've really helped them adopt and transform to this new landscape where the volume of video required is so intense.
And same question that I put before, did you face competition when you started, or were you just one of a kind?
We actually were quite early in the concept of video creation. So coming from television, we started to see the drop off from watching TV. So we started to realize people wanted to be part of their own storytelling, and we see that now happening in corporate more and more. But we see quite a strong competitive landscape. I think that the thing that's worked for us is really the full vertical. So when you start to offer every element of that journey of video, whether it's the creative or the strategic, or whether it's the actual grunt production, or whether it's the distribution, measuring, the statistics, and all those elements that come. Once you offer the whole vertical, you become a one-stop shop. And I think we still, to some degree, don't have a huge amount of competition in doing that full stack. But how anybody talks about, it doesn't matter how sort of full-on video is in the world, it's still pioneering in most senses in the corners of businesses. Like if you go to the comms department, are they using video in training? Are they using video in these other elements within their business communications? And I think there's a long way to go. So I think despite the competition, there's room for more people coming in, and the growth will be extraordinary in the next 10 years.
So you're not unduly worried about the competition?
I mean, I think what we worry about, we worry about our clients, to be honest with you, Hamish. We're kind of really focused on our clients' performance rather than perhaps stuff. I mean, it's always sort of a bit worrying when people come in and they spend a huge amount of elements of things they're going to do, whether it's a new form of AI storytelling or this or that, and there's a huge amount of money being thrown at solutions. I think there's still sometimes we worry whether we're really being aggressive enough. But I think to some sense in our business, we are changing people's lives, and we're changing businesses' abilities to communicate, and that's been a huge joy. So we don't lose customers often. So I think our job moving forward is just to keep on getting them. So that's really been our story.
Okay, great. And I forgot to ask you, where are you sitting? Somewhere exotic?
Me in London. Our teams are spread around the world. Most of our tech teams are in the East, but most of our 90% of our sales are in the US.
Right. Okay, London, where I am as well. Let me move back now to Eva, because I've asked Matt and Anthony about competition, and I guess you're all founders of a new business, a new company. And I guess one theoretical advantage is that you don't face competition, but equally, you may have founded your company in the face of competition. I wonder what the experience was for you, Eva. Were you, again, kind of all on your own, or were you facing competition that was out there already?
Oh, yes, YouTube was there already. So, and people thought that that would be a good place to upload their films and find their audience. But it was not, of course, because it's too big, and all the content that is uploaded there every day, you can't find anything. So that was there, and also some of the other Netflix and things, but we can't even not really compare ourselves with those kinds of streaming services. So yes, competition, but not really.
No, okay. And what about now? Are you still pretty much one of a kind?
Well, since we have an idea of not being only a streaming service, we are building a community. We are working with the commercialization, helping the filmmakers monetize their art and things. So we not in that field really. We are working on so many different levels than other streaming services.
Right. Okay. Turning to David Sarlos, competition, was that a big obstacle, a hurdle for you when you got started with Vialog?
Arguably, yes. So we are kind of an R&D project spin-off from different kind of Innovate UK and the European Commission projects. So from that kind of standpoint, you would have to kind of estimate and evaluate the future 4 years ahead of time. So it's not much of a kind of current competition. However, as Matt was saying yesterday, I think that as a video as a category stands for such a widely expanding and quickly expanding ecosystem that it kind of the competition is a good thing. I would agree on that, and it really helps kind of educate kind of the next levels and the next rounds of people joining this ecosystem. When it comes to kind of the core business of what we do, interactive video, the ability for two-way communication in this format is something we are seeing very few companies still doing this.
Right. Now, I'm going to go back around the panel with a question. I'll give you a few moments to think about it, and I'll ask you another question while you're thinking about it. But the question I want you to think about and end with is the one piece of advice that you would give to the other people on this call, because you are all successful founders. What was it about founding a new business that you would advise, the one big thing you would give advice on to the others on the call? Warning advice or encouraging advice, whatever, just one piece of advice to leave with them. And we'll come back to have a conversation about that. And while you're thinking about what that might be, I wanted to share that we're going to be doing an event later this year. I think Kinga will give you a bit more detail. We've even got a date, I believe, for it later in the year, a summit meeting. And one of the lenses we're going to use to look at media challenges is the question of AI, artificial intelligence. And I wondered for all of the panelists whether you thought that that was a particular threat to your business or not. And if not, what are the biggest threats? One of the biggest threats, perhaps, you could identify. But the AI seems to us to be quite a challenging subject that will affect all of the work that you're doing, I suspect. So I wondered if you'd give us your perspective on that. Anthony, could I come to you first? What's your assessment of AI and the challenges it presents to your business?
I think it's a huge opportunity in many cases. I think that people, when it comes to video creation, have a sort of inception problem. What video I'm making? What's the story I'm making? So I think there's something really interesting about the fact that we could use AI to kind of provide some people additional help in those first steps. Despite that, I think full pragmatic video made by AI will lend itself to smaller companies who are cost conscious. I think the bigger companies will struggle with allowing that to happen to some degree and want a hand on it. So I think that there is a threat in terms of full pragmatic, but we see it as probably something that could be very useful in helping our users incept ideas and possibly content search. So.
Right. Thank you, Anthony. Matthew, any thoughts on AI? Good, bad, indifferent? Where's Anthony? Yeah, you're on mute, Anthony. Could you hear
Oh,
me?
I thought you asked David. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry, I'm asking you, Anthony.
You're asking me again, right? So
I'm
what's the
sorry.
question?
No. Sorry, let me go backwards. Let me go to Matthew.
Okay.
Sorry, Anthony.
That's
It's
good.
Matthew, I was wanting to address the question of AI.
Sure. So I actually wrote an article about this in 2018, really outlining a lot of the various uses that AI can impact content creation. I'm a firm believer still to this day that there still needs to be a human touch involved in the creative process, because as much as I love AI and love technology and love all of the things that even ChatGPT has been doing, I still look at it from the creative process of that organic nature of understanding a funny moment or a sad moment or a moment that, you know, people need to take pause at. I don't think that AI is quite at that moment yet. From an editor's perspective, being able to leverage AI in the way that you can have shots potentially, recommended to you. I think that's a really huge aspect of how we could see AI helping content creators. We've seen obviously ChatGPT over the last couple months spike in popularity just based on the fact that you can say, write a story for me, and it writes a story about whatever that subject is, and you can keep refining it. But you have to go back to remember that the only way that it's been able to write these stories is because humans have written these stories ahead of time, and it's learned from that process over hundreds of years of people writing stories, that it's trained on those models. So even when you are leveraging AI, you have to realize the fact that at some point a human was involved in making that success.
Right. Okay. So not as much negativity as perhaps some people are suggesting. You're seeing some positives here. David, what's your thought about AI, threat or opportunity?
I think the one to highlight here is an opportunity actually, and that is when it comes to video commenting. So that is, I guess, video creation for the rest of us on the internet, just browsing through and kind of on previously one-way websites, one-way communication websites. I think the opportunity lies in safeguarding these interactions. And I think that AI has a very nice application in content moderation and ensuring that the content that surfaces from there's many phones and devices can be safe for the widest possible audiences in a smooth process. So when it comes to content moderation, I think AI is a great opportunity, and the challenge is really what happens to all the rest of the content that has ever been created and published when it comes to text and pictures, and then we will have increasing doubts about their kind of truthfulness. So again, the kind of the issue around trust, I think, is what the AI highlights even further. Yeah.
Would it be useful, do you think, David, for us to not do a conference on AI as such, but to look at some of the challenges in the media sector through the AI lens? Because certainly some of the debates we've had with lawyers, regulators, and others in previous events has been to express some fears and concerns about what happens to democracy when it's not clear whether a particular video or written piece of work is real or fake. Would it be useful to have a conversation, do you think, in the media sector about that question?
Absolutely, conversations are always useful. I would say, like, we will definitely need to kind of a long view discussion with the widest possible stakeholders involved in regards to the ethics and the kind of the implications around the future use and integration of AI.
Okay, well, I think we're going to follow that advice and do something. We'll let you know about the event. Eva, just come to you last. If you could give us your thoughts about AI, and then I'll put to you the question to finish with, which is, if there was one piece of advice as a founder of a successful company that you would give to this group, what would it be? So first on AI, and then your one piece of advice.
I think it's an opportunity, but still, for the tech side of our work, so for the platform, it's an opportunity, and we could help. We could develop things, how to make content visible, more visible in different platforms and in different ways. So I think it's a really good opportunity. And still, as a platform, we can see that we can also see how the audience are choosing how they want to see the different content, and how we can work with content to make it more visible and easier find the audience. So I think it's an opportunity.
Okay, and one piece of advice for this this group as a founder?
Don't be afraid to kill your babies.
Right. Is that the content of one of your movies?
Can be a movie.
Okay, can you just explain that a little bit more? What do you mean by that?
Yeah, you find yourself to an end, and you have to iterate, and you have to do all this work over and over again. And if it's not working, just leave it, because you have to decide at some point that this is working or not. And when you are at that end, just leave it.
Okay, all right. Well, that sounds like good but challenging advice.
Yes.
Thank you, Eva. I'll come to Anthony next. I really mean you, Anthony, to give your one piece of advice.
A simple one, really, just resilience. So, if you have a really great product and a great idea, then you just have the resilience required is just extraordinary. And expect things to be longer and take longer than you think. There's hardly ever shortcuts. And be careful with where you get your funding. Stay small, lean, mean, and make your product as valuable as you can in the short term before you take money to grow it too fast. That'd be my advice.
I think that was several pieces of advice there, but that's all right.
Good. I couldn't help myself.
Yeah, that's all right.
I had a moment and I went for it.
No, that's all good advice. And in terms of resilience, presumably, as Eva, I think, is saying, you reach a certain point, however resilient, you have to decide, well, this isn't going to work, so I'm going to kill the baby. How do you identify that point in your world, Anthony?
Well,
Ava, feel free to go ahead. But I mean, certainly for me, the users speak the volumes, really. So I mean, you'll start to realize it doesn't work for people, and you've got to look at that and stop blindly believing your idea is right from the beginning and adapt. So
listen to your users. Eva, did you want to come in on that?
No, it's the same. The users. It's that
users. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Be guided by your users. Right. Matthew, have you got one piece of advice for us?
Yeah. So the name of my holding company is actually Third Summit, because I've done Everest Base Camp, I've done Kilimanjaro Summit, and I felt like building a company was going to be my third summit. So just to give perspective there, but I think it's always around, and the others have mentioned this as well, but it's building a strong team and a network. And when I say strong team, I don't necessarily mean people that are always going to say, yes, that's a great idea. I think it's so important to have people that can challenge you and you feel comfortable taking their information and listening to that challenge, because I would rather a trusted source tell me something's a bad idea than get something out into the marketplace and then thousands of people say, hey, this was a really bad idea. So I think really trusting the people that are around you and supporting each other. And again, problem solving, right? It's always about making sure that you're quickly adapting to the scenarios that are in front of you and making sure that you're making quick, decisive moves in order to move on to the next step.
Thank you, Matt. I think that's probably good advice for most politicians as well. I've spent a bit of time in politics, and I think that the failed politicians are those who haven't listened to the negative advice. Don't do that, or do this. When you stop listening to that advice, then you're in trouble.
We could have a whole nother topic on American politics another day.
Yeah, we'll stop on that one. Listen, you've been a fantastic panel, but your work is not done, because we'll close this panel. We'll stop the live